Hello, everybody. We are waiting now for um, other people, additional 2-3 minutes. So let's wait 11:02, and we will start our webinar. Okay, so we can start. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Jakub Dradracht. Most of you know me. What is important for me to welcome you on another webinar dedicated to paints and coatings industry from the PCC. And today's topic is Roflam B7, plasticizer by nature, flame retardant by design. It's really important because we will speak today not only about B7, but also B7 sister brother products. And our speaker for today will be Łukasz Toma, like the last time, our technical support manager responsible for this industry. So before I hand over the reins to Łukasz, there are a few important points to cover. And first of all, we encourage you in active participation in Q&A section. So questions are really important for us because if there is something that we have to cover now, we would like to do it and we would like to expand the topic as much as we can. So feel free to post your questions and comments in the chat, and I will tell them directly to Łukasz later on in the end of this presentation. Last but not least, following today's teleconference, we'll send you within a week the PDF version of this presentation. So we also hope that it will be a useful tool for your work in the future. So let's get started. Thank you very much once again, and I hope you will enjoy it. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Jakub, for the proper introduction. The first question, I think one of the most important, can you hear me very well or not? Is it okay, everything with the connection?
Fine, it's fine, Łukasz, it's okay.
Okay, so I guess we can start. So today's topic of the presentation is Roflam B7. So you see this title, Plasticiser by nature, flame retardant by design. So actually it's the product that combines very well two properties, let's say, of two kind of products. I would explain it on the presentation, and I showed, let's say, the most important factors connected with our products. But before we start the discussion about the Roflam B7, as usual, I would like to start with the introduction of our portfolio. So basically, among our products dedicated for coatings, you have, let's say, four key groups of products. We have flame retardants, wetting and dispersing additives, open time extenders, and corrosion inhibitors. So as you remember, some of you, last webinars were about some kind of wetting and dispersing additive specific for the waterborne and solvent-borne coatings. But today is the first webinar that is dedicated for flame retardant, so Roflam B7. Okay. So since the Roflam B7 is a key component of some certain fire-resistant coatings, I would like to say now a few words about this type of coatings, which are very important in some applications. But for the proper understanding of the function of fire-resistant coatings, it is good to know what are the main type of fires. So actually, we can distinguish three main types of fire. The first one is cellulosic, which refers to the fire of the substrates like wood, paper, which is a source of this fire. In this case, the fire is spreading slowly and gradually, and 50 Celsius degree is reached within 5 minutes. The more violent is hydrocarbon fire, as you see. So here, the 1000 Celsius degree is reached within minutes very rapidly. And at the end, we have jet fire, which refers to the, let's say, which may happen when combustible liquid or gas is liquid, it's leaked under high pressure. And this type of fire, let's say the temperature is it's the highest and it's reached very rapidly. So what is also important in case of hydrocarbon fire, this kind of fire can occur in the presence of a combustible liquids like, petrol or some kind of organic solvents. So depending on the type of fire, we have different kind of FR coatings. So we can divide into two main groups. The first one is cellulosic fire-resistant coatings. In the second group, we have hydrocarbon. So cellulosic FR coating consists on mainly non-intumescent system, which the main, let's say, responsibility of such system is slowing down the spreading the fire. And such coatings are mostly recommended for the interior application, for the wood, like the protection of wood or paper. They can be waterborne or solvent-borne, and usually are applied in very thin layers. In case of hydrocarbon fire, this kind of, let's say, systems are more dedicated for the industrial application, especially where we have presence like combustible liquids or solvents. So for example, it can be used for the mining platforms, refineries, storage tanks, etc. And this kind of, let's say, coatings are dedicated mostly for the steel protection. I would explain it later on. We are talking about mostly intumescent coatings, and those kind of coatings are thicker, usually thicker than in case of cellulosic fire. I mentioned the intumescent coatings, which are very important in case of hydrocarbon fire protection systems. So what are those, let's say, what is this kind of coatings? So the main role of intumescent coatings is creation of protective layer of the char during the fire, which can act as a kind of insulation that reduce heating transfer between the fire and the substrates. To create such a layer, we need three key components. So we have acidic source, which predominantly is ammonium polyphosphate. We have source of the carbon, which is necessary to create the char, and blowing agent, which expand the char. So what happened during the fire? Above 250 Celsius degree, we have the decomposition of the acid source to the ammonium and phosphoric acid. Then the phosphoric acid reacts with the pentaerythritol and create the char. And above 300 Celsius degree, melamine decomposes, create the gas which expand, different kind of gases which expand the freshly formed char. What is important, the, let's say, expansion factor, so the ratio between the height of the char and initial coating thickness, it can be even up to 100. So for example, if we have at the beginning the layer with the thickness of 1 millimeter, as a result of this creation of char, we can have the layer of the char with 10 centimeters even. So it's kind of impressive, really. Okay, so after this short introduction about fire-resistant coatings, I think we can say a few words about our Roflam B7. So basically, this product is treated as a, let's say, liquid flame retardant. However, its main function is acting as a plasticizer. We are talking about mostly 2K epoxy intumescent coatings. As a plasticizer, Roflam B7 lowers the viscosity of epoxy resin and provides appropriate mechanical properties. And from the other side, as let's say, as a flame retardant, it supports the intumescent system, which is also very important. So what about other properties? So basically, this product is in the form of clear, colorless liquid. The viscosity is relatively low, so it's in the range 65 up to 90 millipascals per second. But what is important? So the phosphorus content, which is, let's say, necessary to provide appropriate fire retardant properties, is 8.1. And also the product contains some significant amount of 3-phenyl phosphate, TPP. So the content is in the range of 30 up to 43%. It is good and not. So I will explain on the, let's say, further part of the presentation, because from one side it affects the, let's say, application properties, but because of the regulation, it can also have some negative effect. The last thing is shell life. So you see it's quite short because we provide 6 months of this parameter, but in some, let's say, certain cases, we can extend it, especially when we deliver it to the far destination. For example, in Asia, in USA, we can extend it to 12 months. Okay, now we can talk about something more about the 2-component epoxy coatings. So they are essential for the intumescent fire protective system for the steel. So 2-component epoxy system represents one of the most important coatings among solventless coating system. We don't need to use any solvent. So basically we mix 2 components, and the polymeric film is created by the reaction between the epoxy resin and the specific polyamine hardener. So epoxy resin itself, it's a product of reaction of appropriate bisphenols with the epichlorohydrin. And as a result, let's say in the final stage of the reaction, we obtain this kind of reactive molecule with reactive epoxy group that can then react with amine groups and create the polymeric film. So what is the characteristic of, let's say, such coatings? As I said, they don't contain any volatile solvent, so it's huge benefit. But they are also characterized by the very good adhesion to steel, excellent hardness, which is also important for such coatings. They can create thick coatings, even several centimeters, which enhance the proper, let's say, resistant parameters, yeah, enhance the resistance of the coatings, which is essential thing for the steel protection. And comparing to other kind of 2K systems like polyurethane, polyura, they are also cost effective. So that's why the epoxy systems are widely used in such application. And intumescent system. So it's one of the very specific application of such coating for the protection of the steel. So they can be used for the production of hydrocarbon intumescent coatings. And for the maximum protection, usually we apply 3-layer system. So we have primer, which provide good adhesion, improve the adhesion to the steel, and also provide some anti-corrosive properties. Our intumescent layer and the top coat just to give good finishing, good appearance of the coat, and hence the gloss color, and also to, let's say, some extent improve the barrier properties. And we reach the main question: why we should use, let's say, fire protective system on the steel? Because the steel is not flammable. So why it's important, especially on industrial, let's say, application, to do that? Because even though the steel is not flammable, it becomes, let's say, softened plastic after reaching 500 Celsius degree. And as you remember, in case of hydrocarbon fire, we can reach it very rapidly. So you can imagine, for example, the installation and the fire then on this installation caused by, for example, some combustible liquids. And within minutes, the whole installation can collapse. So there is no time for the evacuation, for the, let's say, emergency action, whatever. And if we put the intumescent system during the fire, as I said, they create protective layer of the char, which prevents the heating transfer. We can extend this time for the reaching 500 Celsius degree. So it's essential to also extend, for example, as I mentioned, this kind of emergency actions and so on. Okay, so important thing, because without appropriate plasticizers, the epoxy coatings are very brittle and their performance might be limited. So the usage of the Roflam B7 significantly improves the coating parameters, and it's worth to emphasize once again its function as a plasticizer. So Roflam B7 decreases the viscosity of epoxy resin, provides optimum mechanical properties, but also as a flame retardant supports the intumescent system. For better understanding of Roflam B7, for better understanding the influence of Roflam B7 on those parameters, I would like to show you the results of our application test we done in R&D. So we made several formulations with the different concentrations starting from 7% in the total formulation up to 20%. As an epoxy resin, in those formulation, we use the common product from our local market, from our local supplier that is, in our opinion, good for this kind of application. This is BPA-based epoxy resin. We also used appropriate polyamine hardener that is recommended from the manufacturer to create the good coating. And finally, we have this intumescent system, APP, pentoerythritol, and the melamine with the appropriate concentration that provide the intumescent effect of the coating. So on the next slide, you will see the results of the application evaluation. But before we started, I would like to say a few words how we can evaluate, let's say, in a good way, this kind of coatings. So basically, we can divide this application test in 3 different groups. The first one refers to, let's say, liquid coatings properties, and we are talking about mostly the viscosity of the component A. In the second group, we have properties of the final coating, final polymeric film. So we have properties like Young modulus, tensile strength, shore hardness, and the Parsons hardness. And finally, we have fire performance. So, for example, we can assess the quality of the char after applying elevated temperature. Okay, so let's start with the viscosity of the component A. So this is important parameter because formulation with lower viscosity, it's easier for the processing, especially while you're mixing it with the hardener and applying on the different surface. So it's essential. So the tendency you see on this graph, it's quite obvious and clear for us. So if we increase the content of the Roflam B7, we can lower the viscosity. But take a look, the difference between the 7 and 10%. So we have very, let's say, significant drop of this parameter. So from my perspective, 10% of Roflam B7 is like an appropriate optimum level if you can satisfactorily decrease the viscosity of the component A. But what about the influence on the Young modulus and the tensile strength? So those parameters refers to the resistance of the deformation under specific stress. So for this kind of specific material, I would say it's better to have higher Young modulus and tensile strength, and we can provide optimum level from 7 up to 15%, let's say. So the changes are not so dramatic. But if we increase to the 20%, so those parameters drop dramatically, and the material becomes plastic and also very prone to the deformation. So it's negative effect in this case. Also, we see that hardness can correlate to some extent with the Young modulus and tensile strength parameters, because actually, again, we see good results from 7 up to 15% of the Persis pendulum hardness and shore hardness. And if we increase this concentration up to 20%, these parameters also drops very sharply, and the film becomes plastic. So if we combine each parameters, let's say, together, so I would say the range of from 10% up to 15% of Roflam B7 is optimum to provide good viscosity and also mechanical properties of such formulation. And that's the information we can, for example, share with our new potential customers. And finally, we have fire performance analysis. So to evaluate intumescent effect, this kind of test is very simple, because actually to do this, we put the sample, which is applied on the steel plate, into the oven. That is and inside oven we have 500 Celsius degree, and we put it for the 30 minutes. And after cooling down to the ambient temperature, we can examine the char. Mostly we are talking about the size and the density of the pores, but also we can assess the expansion factor of the char. And on the next slide, you see the results for the formulation with 10% of Roflam B7 and 15%. So that is the range, that is the optimum range I said on the previous slides. And the effect on, let's say, pore size and the density, it's similar, but there is a positive influence on the expansion factors. So we have say, higher char in this case. So we see this supporting effect of our Roflam B7 on this parameter. Okay, so we have reached the last but not least the point of the presentation. I mean, now I would like to talk about something more about new product from Roflam B line. And why? The question why? So, because of the regulation. You remember I mentioned the Roflam B7 contains above 30% of triphenyl phosphate inside. Unfortunately, in Europe, this compound from October 2024 is identified as a substance of very high concern, and additionally, it was included in the candidate list of the Annex 14 IHA. From that date, all substances and mixtures containing TPP above 0.1% by weight must be classified as endocrine disruptors, which can cause some kind of disruptions of the hormonal system in the environment. So what's important regarding the dates? For all of new substances, the change in the classification have to be done immediately. So this is obvious. However, for the products already existed on the market, like our Roflam B7, we can use some kind of transition period. So the new classification and labeling will be required from the 1st November 2026. So we still have time to that date, but nevertheless, we need to make some actions. Because what does it mean for us? The product, as I said, would be classified, and in the European market, the usage, unfortunately, of our product may be restricted and limited in the future. So that's why, to meet this kind of expectation of the market, we've developed two new grades of the products with low and very low content of TPP. The first one is Roflam B7. So the product has been existed in our portfolio from several years, but recently what is important, we improved the quality of the product and we can provide maximum 1% of TPP inside. So for example, if you use 10% of Roflam B7, maximum 10% of Roflam B7 in the formulation of epoxy resin, you don't need to classify the whole, let's say, composition. But unfortunately, we still need to classify it and label this product as an endocrine disruptor. So that's why we also developed recently Roflam B7F with very low content of TPP, below 0.1%, and this, let's say, level provide that our product is not classified and we want to have any problems with the classification in the future. Okay, so we have products with low and very low TPP content, but unfortunately, as I said also in the beginning, TPP is very important in terms of the application properties, because actually TPP is the most effective plasticizers. So if we decrease the content of this molecule inside the whole, let's say, mixture, we also decrease its efficiency. So we can clearly observe it with the influence of the viscosity of component A. So Roflam B7, let's say we have doubled viscosity, and we in Roflam B7F even 6 times higher than the original Roflam B7. But let's say, fortunately, recently we discovered that some new dispersing additives from Exodus PC line have synergistic effect with the Roflam B7, and this combination significantly decreased the viscosity of the component A. So for us, it looks very promising. The works are still, let's say, ongoing. However, I think we believe we will succeed with this approach in the future, and you see we can have some benefit from two lines and combines them successfully. Okay, so at the end, few words about the multiplication, because let's say some variation of the product with similar chemistry might be used in the other kind of industries like plastic rubbers, polyurethane foams, lubricants, and more. And finally, we have summary of our presentation. So basically the most important things, as I said, one product, two function plasticizers, and the flame retardant. So original B7 contains above 30% of TPP inside and around 8% of the phosphorus. 10 up to 15% of Roflam B7 is, in our opinion, optimum to reach the satisfactory results of the mechanical properties and viscosity. Since the TPP is classified as a substance of very high concern, we've developed two new grades, Roflam B7 with 1% of TPP content and Roflam B7F with very low TPP content, 0.1, below 0.1%, which does not affect the classification of our products. Okay, so that's all from my side. Thank you for the attention. And I think we are ready for the Q&A section.
Thank you very much, Łukasz. So it was I wanted to fulfill whole story with few points. So in regards to the other applications, we mentioned there the metalworking fluids and also the plastic and rubbers, but we have actually other names for this chemistry. For the plastic and rubbers, we offer it under Roflex line, and for lubricants and metalworking fluids under Rocolub line. Finishing the story also about B7L and B7F. B7L is commercially available now, so we currently selling to the customers, and it's kind of, let's say, semi-solution now for our customers which want to be before the deadline on safe side with the regulations. And B7F is only in the lab stage, however samples are available, so for sure we can also provide them to you. But our idea is to provide them with full formulation and just show customers how to transition from standard formulas which they are using to the formulas with usage of B7F. So we assume also it will include one of the Exodus line products. Yes, so that's mainly all from my side, and I think we can go to Q&A section. Yes, what is the comparison of the flame retardancy effect between them? So yeah, Łukasz, if you can respond to maybe to this.
But you're referring to the B7, let's say L and F, or the combination of B7F with the
so I assume B7, B7L, and B7F. Yes, so three of them.
Okay, so as I said, some works are still ongoing. So for us, the most important thing will be the fire performance of the combination of Exodus with B7F. And if we, let's say, reach the satisfactory level, so if we see the char will be with the good quality, I think that will be something that we can promote further.
Yes. So next question. is Exodus PC2 Free 8 available for promotion and sales? So actually, this is also under development product
That's right.
because we specially design it for this application and this solution. So we are not ready yet. However, let's say from the synthesis point of view and raw materials point of view, we are ready. It's more about final test results for the combination between B7F and this product. And if we will have all of the application tests, I assume we will go commercially. Let's say we will be open commercially for that. Yes. Okay. Next question. B7 phosphorus content in your presentation 8.1, in technical version 8.5. Which one is accurate? Yeah, so I assume
actually,
always it's a range.
good question.
Always a range, yes.
Yeah, we need to check it. So please remember, we do not analyze the phosphorus content itself. It's a theoretical calculation. So of course, it may vary with some range of the let's say numbers, but according I check it on my, let's say, in my data, and according to last, let's say, messages data, the phosphorus content is rather 8.1% than 8.5. So that should be the correct version.
Next one, please. Did you test the Roflam B7 for different polyurethane foams? Okay, so actually we are promoting also this product under actually the same name, because Roflam we use for the paints and coatings and also polyurethane foams, and it's also promoted to this industry. However, there are two factors which are really important here. So still there is huge usage of standard TCPP on the market, which is more effective. Of course, this is halogenic derivative because it has chlorine inside, but because there is no restrictions now, it's still used in the market because it's more effective. And second thing, is also cheaper. Let's say our product from Roflam B line is at least twice more expensive, yes, than TCPP. So it's really hard to convince the customers from polyurethane foams, especially rigid, which they have huge pressure from the construction market into the prices, to use our products, our product like this one. But obviously, in some smaller projects, yes, it is used, and we have currently sales to this industry also. Anything else from the questions?
Yes.
Okay, Exodus PC2 Free 8 has flame retardant performance, or just for decreasing viscosity?
So the main function, if I can say, it's the decreasing the viscosity. We don't know now the, let's say, influence of the fire performance, so we are during the tests. But please remember, this product is also kind of phosphate ester, so it also contains the phosphorus inside. Of course, not in the content like in Roflam B7, but we hope it can also still support the flame retardancy to some extent. And please remember, this is dispersing agent. So the main function is the interaction between the solids like APP with the rest of the composition. So we also believe the better, let's say, dispersing effect of the solids inside the coating would also has good influence on the viscosity of, and not viscosity, fire performance of the polymeric film.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Do you have any information if TPP regulation in the foreseeable future will be banned in US, Canada, LATAM? So as far as we know, and we hear from the customers, it can be even sooner than in Europe. This is some kind of new information for us, because in the most of the cases in our industry, Europe is like trend maker. So they are doing something, and after that, US is following, and after that, some other countries are following. So we suppose that it will be like that. However, we are not certain now how it may evolve in coming months, because it's really dynamic situation. Yeah, so there is no certain answer for that. If your results are good for B7F and PC238, do you plan to make a single product out of it, or it will just always remain two separate products?
A good
Just
question.
out of, yes, a really good question. Out of your curiosity, in the past we've produced, we tried to combine something like that. We hope, we put really high hope for something similar. It was not fully successful, but Łukasz, maybe you can extend this topic. Yes.
So it's the matter of the, let's say, mixing together this kind of
Ability, yes. So
ability to mixing together, because we are afraid that are not mixing one with each other and then can separate during the time. But please remember, in our opinion, PC 238 would be the product that will be not only dedicated for intumescent coatings, but also, I believe, for other kind of epoxy systems with different kind of pigment, and also for other kind of solvent-borne and solventless systems. So that's why we want to promote this product also in this other kind of formulation, not only into intumescent systems. So answering to your question, we will rather dedicate this system separately. So B7F and the appropriate dispersing agent.
okay, next one. I think that's all.
That's all right
I
now.
think that's
So
all.
I cannot see any new
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah. So I think that's all. Thank you very much once again for the participation. I think it's that kind of webinar is a treasure for all of us, and we'll be waiting just for your feedback. As I said, you will receive the data from today's webinar for your email. Yes, and I just wanted to emphasize that we produce these products in Poland, and as I said about the availability, B7 fully available, B7L fully available, commercially available, and B7F in lab stage. So if there will be any question about commercializing and promoting actions, just let us know, because this is obviously the purpose of this webinar, to spread the information and hear what is the insights from the market. So I think that's all. Thank you very much once again. Keep in touch with some of you. We will see each other within the next 2 weeks. So best wishes for you, and see you soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.